once in a while we'll have a meeting where a specific direction is not planned beforehand, where we let things happen pretty much as they wish to happen, being very alert to it, following it, watching ourselves all the time, where there's a certain relaxation and lightness in ourselves so that we can catch what is indeed passing through us and learn from it. So tonight we're going to relax and talk together about certain subjects, and it might indeed build up to a certain intensity in the room, as you have observed before, because you have relaxed to the point where, as Connie just mentioned, your thoughts are out of the way and you're able to see something new in yourself. That something new in yourself will always at first be something that is a bit shocking or frightening, something that makes you want to run away and not look at it. But tonight we will look at whatever we happen to see. We're going to talk about the idea, the subject of self-contradiction. One of the most astonishing things about us as human beings is how we can go through an entire day, an entire lifetime, and never see how we are not just, we are more than two people, but just for now, let's say how we're entirely different people in different circumstances, and never see the contradiction. Examples. Right here in this group, we might say that we, as people have said to me, that everything centers around trying to find myself. This is what I want, someone will tell me. Or I read my books and I listen to lectures in an effort to change the kind of a human being I am. And yet, for heaven's sake, I sit here and you sit here, and believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I see contempt on your faces when something crosses you. Little things flash real fast. Which is a contradiction, which means you don't see how that small contempt that you had for someone keeps you apart from achieving your aim of finding yourself. It passes so fast you don't even notice it, but other people notice it, and I do. All sorts of things going on in this room. This is what contradiction is. Not seeing how we aim at one thing but behave in another way. Criticism, wanting to get something on someone else. But let me go back, and maybe you can see a contradiction in yourself if I come back to the term contempt. How many of you have had contempt for anyone or anything this week? Anyone or anything. Contempt. You know what contempt is? Then you have been divided within yourself. Not only that, but you don't know the meaning of self-destruction. How easy it is to, quote, love someone, admire them, respect them, and then at the slightest difference in their attitude toward you, turn to contempt. Which is very dangerous, because it's going to keep in place this inner division, this house divided against itself that we're talking about tonight. Those of you in this class have a special challenge that most people out in the world do not have, which is good. That's fine. And that challenge is connecting the topic of self-division, of self-contradiction, connecting that topic with that powerful topic called hypocrisy. Just look at hypocrisy, and you know what the word means, to say that you love peace as a citizen, but you're very glad when the troops march off to war because you get something out of it. Or you claim you care for other human beings, for the hunger in the world is now going on, but you don't really. You understand, do you not, before we go on, that you can't possibly have any concern for any other human being on earth as long as you are wrapped up in yourself, thinking that you do indeed possess this independent self? As long as you think you exist as you can't have any compassion at all. You can only have this hypocrisy, this self-division, which is self-destruction. Well, you know, if you could hang on to just that tonight, the idea that self-division is self-destruction, without being afraid of it, what a help that would be. Now, effective as of tonight, you will make a determined effort to study the idea of self-division, but particularly look at the word hypocrite. It's a dreadful word. Nobody wants to use it. Except to the other man, of course. Can you look at your behavior? Can you catch the contemptuous look on your face, the contemptuous word, the sarcastic remark, which you're indulging in all the time, by the way, not necessarily to the other person, but inwardly to yourself? Sarcasm. How many of you were sarcastic last week? That's because you were afraid. If you were not afraid, you wouldn't be sarcastic. Now, can you look at this state, which has been given the label hypocrisy, which is an inner split, a house divided against itself? Can you look at it, the word hypocrisy, without getting an emotional reaction from it within yourself? Can you see, now listen, see, can you see that you are a hypocrite without calling yourself a hypocrite? Because if you see that you were contemptuous towards someone, which is wrong for you and for the other person, which is part of this psychic sleep, if you can see that you behave badly toward another person without putting the label hypocrite on it, you become a scientist instead of the machine that reacts. Now I'm a hypocrite and I must avoid looking at it. You see, you can only see something when you avoid the word, the label, the calling that's on top of it. If you call yourself a hypocrite, that's the end of it. Now you're going into guilt or blaming the other man and say, you made me the way I am today, whatever your particular action may be. But if I can see inner division, see it scientifically, without self-reference, without self-condemnation, excuse me, maybe I had better see it first of all. Maybe I'd better catch myself operating in that kitchen. For example, I have known people, and you have known people, maybe you have known people, as an example, who say something like, oh, I never eat breakfast. This is a form of division, a form of bragging. Or I don't do this, or I do this. Do you understand? In an effort to impress the other person that you are a certain kind of person, which you are not at all. You might eat 3 lunches for that matter. If I can see my division, whether it's in the word or an act, without the condemnation, I will be able to drop it. And I won't be a slave to it anymore. Which is the ending of division, of hypocrisy, and the clashing pain that results from it. Now, please, every one of you, understand that what I'm talking about tonight is completely unconscious, well, 99% unconscious in each one of you. And if I caught you and told you about these divisions as I observe them in this room, it would be too much for you. I can't do it at the time, because I know that you're not able to react purely by saying, yes, that's a fact. You'll turn in identification with it and feel ashamed of yourself. Or you'll resent me for saying it to you, and thereby strengthen the contradiction. All right. Where are we going to start to putting an end to the division that we do not presently see? There's many ways. I'm going to give you one of them. This time it's going to be a little bit different. It's working on yourself, but in a certain particular way. And as I talk, you observe your experiences out in the world, and you'll see how true it is. This is a beautiful thing you're going to hear. This is tremendous. I'm glad that I'm here tonight, that you're here tonight. And you write this down as your guide. You write it down. It's just 4 words. And you'll see. The 4 words are, let no man judge you. 5 words. Let no man judge you. You are the man or woman that you are today. This self-split, this tug back and forth between take the donut and don't take the donut, or look at that pretty woman or don't look at that pretty woman, or start this business or don't start the business, on and on and on. We are this way because 1.1 with a dot after it, our own inner carelessness, which 2 dot after it. You sit there or you go through your day and let other people tell you who you are, and when they tell you who you are, the whole thing is a falsehood because they are false. And they can't possibly talk any other way, and it's your fault for swallowing it. You're so gullible. I've told you this before, and it doesn't seem to do much good because you continue to be gullible at work. So tonight, you will not be careless. You will not be asleep in your associations with other people. And when they try to tell you who you are, you will not take it upon you, but will take it on a part of you that is much higher than you are, which is a pure understanding of what is happening when they try to force a label, a name onto you, which will put you into contradiction if you do take it. You will henceforth, ladies and gentlemen, not permit anyone to tell you who you are by you falling under their sarcasm. They're sarcastic toward you, the businessman, the man at the gas station, the relative, the sly little remark. Good heavens. You sit there in that room with your relatives and your so-called friends and every other word or facial expression or gesture you permit to reinforce your own neurosis because you're asleep and you have no idea of what is going on. And then you wonder why you get so depressed. You wonder why you're angry. Because you're not sitting there in that room with these people with a wide awake mind. You will not permit anyone anymore to call you stupid. You will not permit them to call you immoral. You will not take any of these labels on yourself so as to keep the chains. This is what you're going to do from now on, if you do it. Which is one way of putting an end to a lack of self-unity. So that you become untouchable to all the negative and devilish, and I say devilish deliberately, all the devilish influences that this world pours out into this world. You don't know it. You don't know it. You don't see it. But to be with any sleeping human being, which is practically anybody, is to be with a very evil person. Yes, all those nice friends of yours, for example, who use you because you're asleep and con you because you want to be nice, you want them to like you. Quit doing so many things for people. Will you stop it? You understand what I'm talking about. And bear the consequences. To be free of contradiction, to be an authentic self-unity, means to stand completely alone and, for one point, completely apart from the morals and so-called standards of society, which you have adopted from society and which keeps you as miserable as you actually are. How would you like to have your own moral code? You're going to have to do a lot more digging, a lot more exposing, going through a lot more shame. I said a lot more shame, and then ceasing to identify with it, which is another label. You stop being ashamed of yourself. Instead of that, you look at yourself. Or the shame you're going to have to go through, so that you can put an end to all shame and live freely here, right now. And one reason you still have all this shame in you, which you do have, is because you are indeed permitting relatives and churches, friends, society to judge you and to tell you who you should be. And so a self-split human being tells you you should be generous. And the reason he says that is because he is, in his self-splitting, is able to see one side of it and say, see, I am generous, by telling you to be generous. And so you listen. You don't even know what it means to be generous. To be generous in its real meaning means to be whole, to be one with yourself. That is generosity. And nothing else is. All the rest is division and hypocrisy. And nothing can come from it but more misery. Can you find instances today, may have already happened to you, or tomorrow, where you permitted another human being to judge your behavior? And you're going to rise up in such emotional rebellion against that you're going to scream out inwardly, stop, to yourself, not to them. Let them blab on. You're not going to stop them. You will do it with wrong emotions at the start, but you're getting the idea of what to do. Dear Mama, dear Papa, dear brother, dear society, you've judged me for the last time. I am not your sucker anymore. Instead, I'm going to do something that I learned at that study group one night. When you try to make me feel guilty or feel ashamed over my sex behavior, maybe, you find out what it is. And sex is a good place to work with. Tremendous place. The next time you try to make me feel guilty or ashamed, instead of falling under it and apologizing, I'm so sick and tired of apologizing to you. But I have a small clue picked up at the class the other night. Astonishingly, that I can stand apart from my usual reaction, guilty reaction, hostile reaction, and simply look at it scientifically and understand why I continue to react this way, and so put an end, eventually, with a lot of hard work, put an end to my self-splitting, to this awful ache, to this awful business of being torn left and right between yes and no and up and down and this and that and good and bad. By using the intelligence God gave me, I'm going to study this thing as hard as I can, and with the help of others in the group and with right books and tapes. I'm going to study it. That is my aim. And I may fail 1,000 times because I've just made the resolve this morning, so to say. And I come home at the end of the day and I see how I failed. But seeing my failure itself is already progress, because before I didn't know I'd failed. I simply reacted like the machine I am all day long. But now this one part that's awake in me can begin to see where I failed. And tomorrow I can be awake once, next day twice, next day 3 times. So that eventually, in all conditions, whether in this room right now, or out in the kitchen during the break, or out at the noisy factory, or at the relative's home for dinner, I am thinking, responding, and living from myself. Oh yes. This new self that we've been talking about, not the idiot self, not the divided self, but something totally new, because I've indeed worked very hard on myself and know what it means to die to shame, to fear, to guilt, and it becomes something new. Finally, more good news. Tremendous. This is all we need, what I'm going to tell you now. Believe me. All the stupid, idiotic things I do and think and say and perform all during the week, they are not going to bluff me anymore either. I'm not going to be bluffed by you, sir or madam, and equally, I'm not going to be bluffed and scared by my own stupid behavior. I always have an answer to that. Do you know what the answer is? The answer is I can always come back and work right now. This morning I did something stupid. This noon I did something terrible. I hurt somebody's feelings. On the way driving here I had a hostile, angry thought towards someone. Oh no, you're not going to hang on to me anymore. I can work right now, right here. I can cease to live in time. And I can be free of this whole messy business right now. And that is a fact. How many of you find yourselves in, let's see if I can get the word that conveys the meaning best. How many of you often find yourselves in an awkward situation, an unexpected, I think that's the word I want, an unexpected situation that throws you and you have no response for it? Do you ever find yourselves in such a condition? Isn't that valuable? Can you think of anything more valuable to you than not have the fixed response ready? So that you just stand there without automatically reacting to it the way you usually do? So that for 1/100th of 1/10 of a second, there's no reaction at all, but then we ruin it all by starting to think or feel or react in the usual way. Try to remain silent in an unexpected situation where you don't have an answer. Watch how uncomfortable that makes you. And watch how valuable it is to you. Because then you can see the possibility of breaking the mechanical reaction to the situation, to any situation. And I'll add another situation. How many of you frequently, and you do, only you give it another name, how many of you are frequently embarrassed by something? Embarrassed. You wanted some synonyms, made nervous, uncomfortable, uncertain, doubtful. Why are you embarrassed by anything? I said anything, no exceptions. Why are you embarrassed at all? It's because you have been found out to yourself. The ideal image that you have of yourself of being a certain kind of a person, respectable person, nice person, has been shattered, and so you feel embarrassed. Why don't you see the fact? Instead of dividing yourself by feeling embarrassed, don't you feel ashamed or embarrassed about anything, but handle it quite differently? How many of you feel inadequate, inferior? You do. I can see it in your faces sitting here. You think that other people are smarter than you, don't you? I'm not trying to make you feel good at all. when I tell you that it is not true at all that anyone is more intelligent than you. You simply haven't uncovered it yet. And you would prefer to live in dependency on Papa and Mama, whether it's Papa or Mama is the church or society or the government. And they'll betray you every time. Listen. You don't need anyone to take care of you. I'm not talking about physical needs. You understand? We do indeed need to trade food, automobiles, electricity, or whatever. Listen to what I'm telling you. You don't need anyone to take care of you. That's a delusion. That is contradiction. That is a house divided against itself. I'm not talking about nice, normal human relationships. That is fine. That's great. I'm talking about dependency in order to feel secure. Further than that, take this. There is no one in existence to take care of you. One step further, there is no one there needing to be taken care of. You've blasted the whole thing apart, haven't you? Now you see it. You want someone to take care of you? Fine. You will live in fear, intention, anxiety, and hostility. Or you can see the mistake you're making and be free of it and be a truly moral person. You be willing to take a terrific smash up inwardly so that you'll understand what we're talking about and live the life, be the life instead of talking about it or thinking about it or hoping for it, hope being further division. Be willing to smash the whole thing, regardless of what happens to you. And that will be the best thing that ever happened to you in your life, and the only good thing that can happen to any one of us. Because after the smashing is life, which is not the old life anymore. We're here to smash things up. And don't you mind what you have to go through to attain this. And you come back every time you feel ashamed of yourself, or embarrassed, or in doubt. You come back and start all over again. You will smash a little bit on Monday and a little more on Tuesday. Don't be afraid to be totally stupid in order to grasp this. For then you'll be really intelligent. Stupidity, real stupidity, being a lack of self-knowledge, a lack of knowledge of life itself. That is what stupidity is. Stupidity is not the inability to read French or build an automobile or run faster with a football than someone else. That is society's labels. We're here to become really intelligent. No, sir. No, ma'am. You're not going to impose this sense of shame on me anymore. Furthermore, speak to the sir or the ma'am inside of yourself and say the same thing, and watch the scream that you hear from out there and from in here. The scream of protest. When the slave masters see the slaves rebel and try to get out, they scream and they throw their whips around and they threaten and they may promise and they may bribe. You just ignore them and keep walking out because they have no power to stop you from walking out. But if you get scared when you see that whip and that fierce look on his face, call the bluff. For heaven's sake, for the first time in your life, call the bluff and keep walking. And the slave driver will drop his whip and walk away in defeat. But not if you falter, not if you waver. Because he's watching the expression on your face to see if he's still got you. And you let the expression on your face say, this is the end of the line. You haven't got me anymore. I'm walking out. And do it. Start with little things. Start with little things to keep yourself unprotected. Try to catch in yourself little self-protective devices and stop them. It can be very, very interesting, very curious. You're sitting talking with someone or a group of people, say, and you're not quite sure of yourself, and you decide to say something, and so because you're watching yourself all the time as well as the other person, you catch yourself putting your hand up to your mouth as you're talking like that. That's a self-protective device, probably, unless your forehead itches, then it wouldn't be. And you take your hands, and you take off those dark glasses you hide behind, by the way, unless you really need them to see. You take off those dark glasses you're always wearing. Those of you listening to this tape, pay attention. That's your little protective device, too. Wear them only if you need to see. You put your hand... We got someone. And you put your hands down by your side, and you take off those dark glasses and that hair that covers half your face, ladies, and let other people look at you, especially when you're nervous, and you bear it. This is the smashing we're talking about. See what a little thing you can find to work on? There are thousands of them. You're completely unprotected. You're sitting there consciously, and everybody is looking at you. Now you can't hide. You used to all these devices. How about ceasing to protect yourself by not blabbing sometime? As long as you're blabbing, you're confusing the atmosphere. How about just sitting there in silence sometime? And the other person will blab because he can't bear the silence. Where can I stop protecting this phony entity, so-called entity, that's been keeping me a slave? Where can I cease to protect it and to promote it? Find ways. Someone insults you. You get in a quarrel with someone. You be the one who walks up to them, not phony apology. That could be trying to make them like you again or something like that. You be the one who writes the letter or makes the phone call or walks up to the person and behaves decently and consciously, regardless of how they're going to react to you. You say, I'll do it. I'll apologize if you'll apologize. That doesn't count. You're going to behave rightly regardless of his or her reaction to your right behavior, right? And it'll be far more valuable to you, actually, if they behave badly to you. If they think you're being weak and they pounce on you. And they think you're just apologizing and admitting that you are wrong. And they get an ego gratification. Because that'll put more pressure on you. Because you'll say, why did I do that work project in the first place? He just hurt my feelings again. Great. When are you going to stop being little cowards? Waiting for the other person to be the brave one? You be the brave one. So the letter doesn't draw an answer. So the other person's voice is cold. For heaven's sake, so what? You're going to have to take the initiative in your own self-deliverance, you understand? Put yourself, this is a general rule I'm going to give you, and you have to use your head. Don't do anything stupid. You always try to keep yourself in the position where you'll be hurt, rejected, whatever. Always deliberately put yourself in that position, not the way you're playing it now, which is the protective position. Playing it safe. Just play it safe and stay as you are. Very simple idea, clearly seen and acted on, has great power for changing the kind of a human being, the kind of a man or a woman that you are. I said a very simple idea, clearly seen and acted on, has fantastic power for inner transformation. And we're going to take one such extremely simple idea. It's so easy to express in words, and I'd like you to write it down as the theme of this morning's talk. You'll see how simple it is, and yet how difficult at the start it is to actually do, to go into action with. Okay, please write down the following. Turn your mind in a new direction. Turn your mind in a new direction. If you could just see what this means to you in daily life, if you could remember it and do it, your life would change overnight, begin to change overnight. I'm going to deliberately use you can call it a spiritual term, a religious term, to give you the general idea of what we're talking about. And it's a good general idea, which is simply that we have the talent, the ability to think heavenly thoughts instead of earthly ones. And by heavenly thoughts, I simply mean ideas, ways of using our mind that is not our normal daily way of using it. that with correct knowledge and with enough feeling in it and enough alertness, you can change magically any situation and change it right now. Because you're changing the direction of your mind. And please understand that it is very difficult work, very hard work, because all our lives we've been conditioned to do things the easy way, the lazy way, the way that doesn't call for any effort at all, just fall in with a mechanical reaction of irritation or whatever it is, or sorrow or self-pity. It's very easy to fall downhill. We're going to learn this morning the secret of walking uphill, which is difficult, far more difficult, but which puts us on another plane in our mind, and therefore makes us different, because we are, in fact, the way we think. So we're going to start changing the way we think, start changing the direction of our thoughts, and do it in a practical way by connecting it with very practical problems, with very daily problems, I should say. Now, if I were to ask you how many things you are fighting all day long, in one way or another, how many things you are fighting, and you were to look at it quite clearly and honestly, you would see that you are fighting all day long, indeed. Many things. You're fighting the future, wanting it to turn out a certain way. You're fighting circumstances that you're in with a lot of feeling, a lot of emotion involved in it, a lot of nervousness. So your daily life, every hour, every minute, is one of conflict, of uncertainty, of doubt, of hurt, of heartache. You're all in heartache. So you're going to learn how this morning to turn your mind in a totally different direction and so change yourself. So you're fighting. The question is, listen to this now. The question is, who is fighting? If you could track that down way back deep into the cave of unconscious and dark thoughts, if you're able to track it down through alertness, through courage to enter the dark cave in the first place and battle through all the dragons and ghosts that are in it, if you were to do this, and you can begin to do it, to begin to change your thinking, you would find that down at the end of the cave, at the very bottom of it, there is no one there at all. Therefore, I'll ask you the second question, or phrased different at least. Who is doing all this fighting? All this wanting to achieve something? Who wants to hang on to that other person in your life, that woman or that man, or that relative, or that friend? Who is trying to hang on to him or her? And why? This is not, I wish that we could use stronger, more descriptive words than a new way of thinking. This is a totally transformed way of using your mind, in which time in the past and the future is canceled now. So that there is no fighting the situation, fighting to hold someone, for example, but a pure understanding of who you really are, and who you really are is someone who's outside of time, outside of yourself, what you have called yourself, and therefore no battle. But as we've said many times before, when we fail to understand this, then the battle, the conflict, the anger, the division, the hostility, the neurotic action becomes very valuable to us. Falsely valuable. It's like valuing a stick of dynamite that's going off in your pocket, that's ticking off in your pocket. Sooner or later it explodes, doesn't it, into this crisis. The reason you have the crisis you have in your life right now, of endless kinds, is because you have not made a serious effort, a sustained effort, to change the direction of your thinking, partly because you don't know that there is something else, which there is, partly because you have not put everything you have into it. And that is because you don't value it. And that is because you still value your quarreling ways, your despairing ways. You love to cry. So I'll ask you again, and then we'll go on to something else. Can you see that to change the direction of your mind, you have to find out who is doing all this fighting on the lower level and therefore preventing a change of mind from occurring? When you find that there's no one there, that what you have called yourself is simply a collection of mechanical responses, which is not you at all, when you see this, when you see that you have been mislabeling yourself all your life, which has been the cause of your grief, when you see that clearly, you're not going to hang on to it anymore. You're going to take that dynamite out of your pocket and toss it aside as fast as you can, because you know at last who has been doing this to you, which is you doing this to you, me doing it to myself. Which means I want nothing more to do with self-destruction. And I'm willing to give up the thrill. I'm willing to give up the thrill of heartache. The thrill of heartache. I'm willing to give up the thrill of criticizing other people. The thrill of blaming other people. Change the direction of your mind this morning by giving up all hope. Because hope operates on the elementary level of thought. And it is one of these walls that we've talked about, which prevents me from living in the present moment and from understanding it by being it. Because I want to hang on to the illusion of a self that is poor today, but will be rich tomorrow. Or, this one ought to hit you emotionally. Or you have hope. See, you feel unloved now. I don't know what there is to love, but you feel unloved. You feel unloved. And so with hope you say, tomorrow I will be loved by that pretty girl, or by that nice man, that handsome man. Abandon all hope. And watch the terror and the emptiness, which means you're beginning to change the direction of your mind. I will add a little sidelight here. All real progress, all new insight is always preceded by a new sense of emptiness. Just before you see something new, something clearly, you must be in desolation. You understand why? This is part of the descent into hell. Of losing myself, of not knowing where I'm going. I used to know where I'm going. I used to know that 5 years from now I would double my business and be president of the company instead of vice president. Or I'd have that nice, comfortable home. I used to know what would make me happy and secure. Now I don't know anymore, and this is my hell. Great. This means I am without thought, without idea, without opinion, without attitude, without belief into what will make me happy and secure. Being without it is a ripping, a tearing, a smashing. But if I will go through it, which is one stage of the cave, if I'll go through it, I will find that the next day I will have something I didn't have the day before because I dared to endure the emptiness. So I urge all of you to go as fast as you can into not knowing what your life is all about or who you are or where you're going or what you have to do. I urge you to lose it as fast as possible. Not on the everyday level. You have to go to work tomorrow. Or you have to trim the hedge Sunday afternoon or whatever. But I urge you to have no ideas about what is going to make it for you, because it never has it? Has it? The thrill of the achievement comes, and then comes the disillusionment with the achievement, and then the search for a new woman, new man, new city to live in, new philosophy, new religion. And we've just gone in the circle of thought, of hope, followed by despair, and back to hope again. This is not thinking in a new direction, is it? That way is thinking in a new direction. So, you find out where you are blocking yourself from thinking in this new way. I will guarantee you something. You'll be so astonished and so delighted how you can cancel pain, how you can cancel the right way, not kidding yourself about it anymore. How you can cancel anxiety right now. And one way you do it, to proceed, is coming to the question of security. We now in our present state of mind ask ourselves, what can I gain? What can I hang on to in order to give me this feeling that I've always had, which I have always called, I've called it security. That's a good general word. I've called it having a certain place in life, having other people in my life. This is what I've called security. Now, can you turn the direction of your mind by thoroughly questioning what you have called your security? Just sit down someday all alone by yourself and write the word security with a question mark at the end of it, and ask yourself what on earth you are talking about. What are you talking about when you say security? You don't know. You've never even done that much. You've taken the word, and because the word itself is so comforting and seems to supply strength to you, you stop with the word and therefore never investigate, and therefore never discover your delusion hiding behind the word. If you were to drop the word, you would then be able to investigate your feelings behind it, and then be able to drop the feelings and eventually put an end to insecurity, because then you would discover at the end of the cave that there is no entity, no person there to either feel secure or to feel insecure. Then where is the meaning of the word security? Security for who? trouble is, you're wasting, listen to what I'm going to say to you now. The trouble is, you're wasting your pain. You're wasting your sorrow. You're wasting your heartache. You're wasting your nervousness. If you understood a little bit more of what we're talking about, you could begin to use them. Remember we said we can use the devil to destroy the devil? As long as you take yourself as being a person in heartache, that is not new thinking. That is old thinking. That is prison mentality. And that, unfortunately, is what we love and live in all our days. And what humanity lives in and dies in. You take this single idea that you have inside of you, mentally, your whole psychic system, the power to begin, we have to begin, do we not? The power to begin changing the direction of your mind. The minute you start, there will be enormous resistance to it, because mechanicalness doesn't want to give up being mechanical. And you don't want to give up being you, most of all. You'll gradually see curious things happening. For one, see and feel. You will feel the clash that you have voluntarily permitted to happen. I want to live, think, feel, act in a certain way. You want to think, act, live in a certain way. Okay? This is the easiest thing on earth to do. Just live the way I lived yesterday, and then live the same way tomorrow. Very easy. I just react on the level of thought, of mechanical emotions, the way I always respond, which is to tie every experience around what I call myself. Very easy. I love this because then I can always say that I exist as this or that kind of person. If you will watch your efforts to change the direction of your thinking, you will hear a loud crash, which is the beginning of understanding what it means to go off in a new direction, which means the dropping of the usual response, which keeps you in place, what you call you, or what I call me. You might say, in order to get out, we have to go through a new kind of a psychic noise inside of ourselves, which is quite different from the old noises of anger. Anger is noisy, isn't it? Hostility is noisy. Resentment. Self-pity is noisy. Do you understand that self-pity is also violence? Is there anyone here who does not understand that self-pity is violence? We're making that noise conscious, after which we'll hear a new kind, which is the clashing, you might say, of the old way with this new way which we're trying to find. And you'll be able to hear something entirely different going on inside of yourself. How many of you like to please other people? How many of you want other people to be impressed with how competent you are? With how talented you are, with how nice you are? You want to please other people? You want to impress them? Your entire day is spent in calculating ways to make the right impression on other people so that you can feed yourself the vanity that comes out of it and the so-called security that comes out of it. A new way of thinking would be to be above the thought, that I must please you, that I must impress you, that I must make a good impression, because if I do that, I will get certain things from you, if nothing more than a compliment on what a good dinner it was, or how successful I was in my business, or whatever it might be. Why do you think such thoughts at all? Why do you inhabit the plane of conflict, of contradiction that we talked about last night, of hypocrisy, which we talked about last night? This is our level, and I'm speaking now specifically of our compulsive need to please other people. But if I don't please you, you'll leave me. Goodbye. Without saying, because I can get someone else. The minute you say you can leave me if you want because I can always get someone else, you have not changed your thinking at all. You'll simply get another ego thrill out of it. Someday maybe we'll go into the details of not seeking a replacement for anything at all. I assure you this morning that by taking this simple idea that we've had this morning, the idea of changing the direction of your mind, turning your mind in a new direction, you can begin to see things that you never saw before about yourself and about other people and about life in general, which can be the beginning of living on another plane, another higher level, the level of knowledge, of consciousness, of insight. In which you are indeed standing all alone in the present moment. And when you do that, you will see, to your great astonishment, that there is no one standing there at all. There is a standing, and there's an understanding, and there's an insight, and there's a clarity, but not a person who is clear. Because the person has always been the problem, right? The person has always been the problem. That's what we're getting rid of, which does not mean the end of you at all. What it means, and you'll recognize this, what this means is the death of the old nature, the death of neurosis, the death of hatred, the death of psychic sickness, the death of labels, the death of mechanicalness, the death of unconscious living, the death of misery, and therefore new life. This is what we're here to discover, a new life, through passing through the death of everything that we've labeled ourselves without even knowing that we do. Which means, finally, and then we'll stop, which means, finally, even in my trembling and my fear, even in my uncertainty, even in my lack of knowledge or comprehension of what I'm doing, I'm going to start doing it. If you think you're ever going to start with security, you drop that thought and say, I'm going to start right in the middle of my insecurity to understand what this is all about. You've been told many times that when you descend into this dark cave and in order to discover the treasure that is at the end of it, you have no choice but to walk through the darkness in fear and trembling. But walk. And every time you come to a ghost or a dragon, walk. Walk right past them. Don't stop. Isn't that a tremendous thing to know that I don't have to be brave, but I have to have an aim? Then bravery comes. You know what bravery is? I'll tell you what real courage is, real bravery. Real courage is the absence of artificial courage. Real courage is the absence of artificial courage in which the whole world lives. Artificial bravery. Artificial confidence. Everybody talks about confidence. And after that, man gets up and gives the rousing speech on how to be confident in 10 days before a crowd of 5,000 people, or how God can give you confidence. He goes back into his dressing room and is scared. We can do much better than that, and we're going to by deliberately dwelling, that's fine, that's all right, by deliberately dwelling upon the thought, the idea, the procedure, that I can and will change the direction of my mind starting today. We're going to work at it. Even if you understand 1/10 of what you've heard this morning, you start with it so that something higher than you can begin to take you over, something right, something higher than you, which is already in you, by the way, can start to take you over and work for you. Isn't that tremendous? This isn't religious talk. I'm telling you, something higher than you or I, you or me, can begin to work for us, do the work for us, if I let it, if you let it, which means to get my egotism out of the way, to get my lies out of the way, then it, truth, God, can begin to work. Begin to think about the difference between what is commonly called negative emotion, harmful feeling, destructive emotion. Begin to see the difference between that and a totally different kind of feeling, which has been variously called inspiration, exaltation, spiritually speaking. If we do not begin to see the difference between negative emotions and a higher kind of emotion, we'll get them all mixed up and be in the horrible, and I stress the word horrible, the horrible delusion that we are feeling God when we're merely feeling our own sickness. Can you conceive human beings so mixed up, so self-divided, that they can make this mistake? Well, in the name of God, men have killed millions of other human beings. In the religious fervor, God has been on their side, just as a very broad example. See clearly negative states, negative attitudes in yourself. And as you cease to identify with them, cease to say I to them, as you begin to die to them, which is dying to the old nature, the same thing as dying to the old nature, then you will feel something totally new, which is a feeling, not just a thought. It's not on the level of intellect at all. This is real inspiration. This is the thing that keeps us coming back here every weekend and reading the books and listening to tapes and walking consciously across the room and interrupting my usual mechanical response of getting irritated when the pressure builds up on me out in daily work. I have this very faint sensing that I don't have to be in this old state anymore. Therefore, you are also turning your emotions into a totally new direction, feeling something different, vague maybe, and it goes away, and you're not sure that it was there in the first place, but it will come back if you continue to work. So let's also examine our feelings as well as our thoughts. And as I said last night, not be ashamed of any of them, but to take the scientific attitude to say, simply say, it's very simple, what on earth is going on inside of me? How can I understand these impulses and urges? How can I understand them instead of falling victim to them, instead of suffering from them, instead of condemning myself every time I have a sex thought or a hostile thought? It's just as easy to say, well, not quite as easy because we're mechanical, but it is possible to begin to say, I'm going to understand this instead of fall in with it. I don't know about you, but I don't intend to live in dread, in nervous anticipation of what is going to happen tomorrow. I don't intend to do that, do you? You know that crisis that's coming up in a few days? Small or large, you know that crisis? Why are you automatically assuming that you must feel negative toward it? That you must battle it? We talked for a half hour this morning about turning our mind in a totally different direction, which is to rise above the level of thought itself. So that the new state is the new direction. And which is never subject to the lower state. Has nothing to do with it. This is light up here, this is darkness down here, and they don't mix. Have you ever questioned the necessity for being anxious about tomorrow? For taking thought about tomorrow? Just to begin with, you don't see how you're doing it. That thing you're planning in a few days or a couple of weeks, you don't see the anxiety that you're suffering from because you have not taken the time to understand your own mind and turn it into a new direction, into a new direction. What's going to happen to you tomorrow? What's going to happen to me 6 months from now? Well, if I calculate properly, if I plan it right, I'll be okay. But every time I make a plan, something or someone else comes along to destroy that plan or to shoot it off into another direction, so I don't see how I can possibly win. Of course you can't win. What you can do is take no thought for the morrow and cease to make all effort to protect or promote this artificial self by which you have lived all your life. Then you see whether you're anxious about tomorrow, whether it's tomorrow of Sunday or tomorrow of next month or 20 years from now. Who is there to be anxious for? who is there to be anxious for? Would you like to talk or ask questions? Rod?
I wasn't catching all the connections when you mentioned turn also your emotions in a proper direction. Distinguish between a correct insight and a negative emotion. Could you say more about that? I miss daydreaming.
All right. Start with the mind. Start there. Start with thoughts. If I am thinking correctly, I cannot possibly arouse a wrong emotion. If I am thinking correctly, there is such a thing as right thoughts. We've said that many times. If I think incorrectly, a wrong emotion must follow because they're on the same level. If I think the thought, we talked about pleasing other people. Let me repeat something before we go on. You have no idea of how your life is dominated by the wish to please other people, which does not mean you displease them. You're trying to protect something there. You want people to be kindly to you. Where are you going to find someone to begin with who even knows what it means to be kindly? Where are you going to find him or her? Huh? Where are you going to find him? You think the smile is the man, the smile is the woman. Boy, wait till you wake up in the morning. If I can simply think clearly, where is there a possibility for a wrong emotion to follow it? There can't be. You know what a wrong emotion is, among other things? We've talked a good deal about hostility or resentment. You know what a wrong emotion is? I'll tell you, here's a wrong emotion. I did it. I won. Just wait till tomorrow and you'll lose. I'll give you plenty of leeway. In the last year, now you can't escape, you can't lie out of it. If I said how many in last week, you could lie out of it. In the last year, within the last year, how many of you felt pleasure in hurting someone else? You know, the sarcastic remark, the sharp letter, the rude look. Gave you a pleasure, didn't it? Didn't it? Yeah, now it's my turn, buddy. You hurt me for 10 years, now it's my turn. You're sick. That is a wrong emotion. Set off by the wrong thought. I am somebody. Including the thought, now it's my turn. How many of you, all right, I'll ask you, you answer yourself. How many of you are secretly waiting your time until it's your turn to be the boss? Your turn to tell that person off that you have submitted yourself to all these years. People never change anything. They just change the forms of their sickness, of their outbursts. Male-female relations included. You took me in the marriage, you took me in the romance. Just wait till I have a chance to break free and tell you off and to hurt you like you've hurt me. And the reason I know how to be evil is because I'm evil myself. I know how you've hurt me and I can sense how it is. Therefore, I know how to be evil in return.